Welcome to a Trekzone conversation where we dive into science fiction. Today, a very interesting chat continuing my Axar coverage. Shawn O'Halloran is here. Shawn, welcome to the show.
Matt, how are you?
Hello.
Very well, my friend, very well. Let us dive into the opener very quickly.
This is a Trekzone conversation. And you can get exclusive behind-the-scenes info and first-play access to all Trekzone podcasts by becoming a member today. Click join on every Trekzone video on YouTube. Go to the trek.zone/support or scan the QR code on screen throughout the show. Now, it's back to you, Matt.
Well, thank you very much, Ross. And of course, a quick reminder on Trekzone socials, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube. We are there as well as on your favorite podcasting feed of choice. Find us, like, follow, and subscribe. And that'll help us convince the algorithm we're worth discussing. Shawn, there is someone very special sitting next to you and just behind you as well. Your beautiful boys. We didn't get a chance to meet them in 2019, but they have been going to Star Trek conventions for a lot longer than some people might think.
Yeah, this is Harrison and Hayden, aka Duckman, and my boys and my daughter have been going to Star Trek conventions since they could walk. In fact, actually, what's funny is that the first time I ever heard, since we will be talking about the absolute elephant in the room tonight, Axar. The first time I ever heard about Axar was in 2012 when I was at Richard Hatch's table. Me and my kids and I. It was actually Harrison and Haley. Hayden wasn't old enough yet. And
wow, that's how long it's gone on.
Yeah, that's how long it's gone on. You can't believe it.
I thought
But
it's been on since like 2017.
That's when the lawsuit ended. Let me finish, okay? Thanks, pal. Okay, so the story goes like this: is that Richard Hatch was a STLV, Star Trek Las Vegas convention mainstay. Despite the fact that Richard never ever did any official Star Trek, he was a fan favorite through and through every single year. And the reason why is because Richard Hatch loved the fans. And when I say love the fans, Richard Hatch just loved hanging around all of us. And it happened quite often. What happened this time was that we started talking to Richard about Battlestar Galactica, and Hayden was just a couple of years old at the time and said, "You're a Cylon." And
oh my God.
And so we started talking more and more. And of course, he knew we're all there for the convention. And so what he did was he told us about Axar, and told us to check it out, and that it was going to be an independent feature being made. Of course, we were very excited about it. And what's funny about this, I always say about Richard, is that Richard almost made you feel uncomfortable because he was dedicating so much time to you. And what I mean by that is that you felt bad for everybody he wasn't spending time with, because there were people in line waiting to talk to him. And he must have spent 20 minutes with me and my kids that time. And of course, every other time I saw him at other Trek conventions and at Toy Con here in Vegas. And he was just a wonderful, beautiful man.
He absolutely was. It was incredible. He got involved with Axar. And I mean, something incredible there is to think that your kids were just a couple of years old when this whole thing started. It is still going on. What do you make of all of this? What do you make of Axar itself? All these fans of Alec and this production that doesn't exist.
Well, I mean, at this point, I had discussions with people, years ago about this, and what they said after the lawsuit ended is that Alec has probably a core of really 200 supporters left. And I think the numbers bear that out if you look at Patreon and where he gets his revenue from. But he is not opposed to trying to spin the story, as he did all last week at STLV, that something is actually happening. I mean, he continues to recycle the same old footage, or Paul Jenkins behind the scenes footage from the shoots that he won't be able to use the footage from. in order to drum up excitement for the project. So I think most fans that were into it beginning have gotten wise to this. But there is that core that is the true believers that will continue to support Alec and to keep his revenue flowing.
Yeah, they absolutely will. Well, Hayden, let's jump into chatting about you now. You were there. Duckman was there. A cosplay that you were doing. Your dad's talked to me about what was going on at the convention. He asked you not to go up to Alec, to leave him alone. But of course, boys being boys, Shawn, I'm sure we can agree with that. A little bit of troublemaking is never too far away. But I guess the intention, Hayden, wasn't to do anything, was it? You were just there and cosplaying at a convention like people do.
Yes, but the only thing to
Be honest.
my cosplay was just this duck mask, this terrifying duck mask.
Yeah, basically what it comes down to, and Hayden will tell you this, but the problem with this kid in the past few years, he's grown so much, he doesn't fit into Star Trek uniforms anymore. And he's at that very weird in-between stage where it's, where I used to be able to spend $10 on a Kirk costume for him. Not going to order from a Novos. And that's just ridiculous that, spending that kind of money, or I'm going to have it custom made. So Hayden is a man of 1,000 costumes and 1,000 props. That's what he's known for. So He says, I'm wearing this duck mask. And then when we got there, he starts talking to me about going over to the Axar booth. And
can I say something?
You absolutely can say
something. So at the beginning, with the duck mask joke, I wasn't actually going to bring it until I just went in the car going to the Star Trek convention while I was just holding the duck mask. And it's like, oh, hey, I have this duck mask and I brought it for no reason. How about I actually have a reason for it?
Right. So I didn't realize what their true intentions were. You made a point that boys are going to be boys. And, after he had brought this up, I strongly advised against it. And let me turn that ringer off. And what I told him, and what I've said to other people about this is before, Hayden might have gone off and done it by himself if it was just him. Harrison definitely wouldn't have. But Hayden and Harrison together, forget it. It's happening. And it doesn't matter what I tell them. And as I've said many times before, I've been taking to the conventions since they could walk. And what they do every time at the convention, their biggest thing is they're not there for the panels. They're there to lighten my wallet at the vendors' tables. And that's pretty much what I figured they would be doing while I was occupying my own booth.
Vendors' tables.
Yeah, where the booths, all the booths.
Yeah?
Yeah, those are called the vendors' tables.
Or where you, get stuff?
Where you get stuff, yes.
Yeah.
So, and Hayden, I soon realized that despite my protestations, he kind of had this in mind all the time. And he actually, at one point, Alec has gone on to say that he came up to him and said, Axar sucks. Hayden, tell him what you actually said.
Axar is a scam.
That's what he said. And that was, I found about that after the fact. But that was the first interaction. And Alec was kind of dumbfounded because I've seen the video. But this was way before the live stream occurred. And after they came back and he was heading over, we knew the Axar live stream were coming. There were at least 6 to 8 people at the booth at the time. We knew this was a Hero Prop booth. And for those who are familiar, Alec, of course, sued Hero Prop. And we were at the booth. I had my own section.
Why did he sue Hero Prop?
Long story.
I'll get into it after this.
Yeah, he's only got 30 minutes, buddy. So we were watching on an iPhone the live stream, which it should be pointed out, Alec was prohibited from doing, just like everyone else was prohibited from doing at the convention. But Alec got an Alec. So we're watching this, and all of a sudden, we see Hayden in his duck mask come on the screen, and we're like, "Oh my god!" And I didn't even have a chance to go and get him before, of course, Alec lost his mind on it. And of course, Hayden wasn't doing anything at that point. Hayden had one moment of confrontation, which was way before um, the live stream.
Yeah. Can I
And
explain what happened? So basically, earlier I did go up to the booth being like, just trolling, but then like when I came up again in the live stream, and I didn't even wasn't there to troll. I was just looking at the stuff he was selling to scam people, and then I looked at Harrison. I was like, and then I said quack, and then it's just like, hey, get out, go.
Right, and of course, then he said all those lovely things about me and how I'm teaching my children hate and everything else. And of course, the aftermath of that when he called them Hitler Youth. It was all rather ridiculous. I continue to contend that the way a normal adult would have handled that would have been to laugh it off and say, here, kid, here's a patch, here's a pin, and make him a friend. But instead, Alec had to act like a 12-year-old.
Hayden, what goes through your mind, as a 10-year-old, when someone like Alec at over 5-6 times your age gets up and starts coming towards you, and having those words to say when you really are just standing there, not doing anything, and something has happened in the past, but it doesn't warrant the reaction that you got. How did that make you feel?
I thought it was a little funny because this grown adult is just yelling at a 10-year-old on live, and he doesn't even care that I yelled. And that's what I was thinking. And I thought it was a little funny. I thought I was a little upset by it too because he just yelled at me out of nowhere like that. But
yeah, Harrison was really more concerned than anything else. Continue.
Yeah, but I can't believe that he actually was so crazy to yell at a 10-year-old.
It is incredible to think about this and the way that things go. I struggle to think, and I'm choosing words carefully because the open invitation for Alec to be on the show is there. Alec said he's coming. My show goes on while I wait for him. But it's really hard to move past this sticking point, Shawn, where he's live streaming in the vending hall when he's not supposed to be. And I know that firsthand because I had Creation PR tell us off behind the scenes for a couple of the things that I was hoping to do. Not telling off, but certainly telling us the lay of the land in the way that things are done. I think the other confusing thing as well is why did he have that camera out of the booth waiting for something to happen? It's almost like it was an invitation.
That's what I was thinking because it would just be a great opportunity for trolls to just go up there and stare into the camera. Why would you even have the camera for the booth?
As I keep saying, more to this point here is that Alec was claiming dominion over the convention floor itself, over the vendors room floor itself. So what was very bizarre about the whole incident was that that camera should not have been on that floor, period. He had no right to that floor any more than anyone else, which is why I was less inclined after the whole incident happened to tell Hayden not to go over there. Because as I told him, I said, look, I paid for your ticket. I was a vendor here for myself. I had a vendor bracelet, but I paid for your ticket. I paid for your brother's ticket. He, and there's no one else, he or no one else can tell you where you can be. You're not being disruptive. You obviously weren't disruptive. So if you want to go over there in that area again, you can if you want to. Just don't be disruptive.
Yeah.
I said the best thing for you to do would be to just stand there in front of the camera lens. Just stand there and do nothing, and which is exactly what he did.
And look, the only reason why someone should kick me from a booth is if I'm being disruptive or I'm in an area that I'm not supposed to be. Which I was not I was not inside of the booth. No one was besides Alec and Steve. He had no reason to kick me out.
Shawn, in the days after and the weeks since the convention, the online attack has been happening. I mean, the online attack has been happening between the two of you for quite a number of years, but it really has become this personal thing now. And it sort of has to a degree in the past where family has been brought up. Now it's sort of come to a point where Alec is questioning your parenting. He's saying that you're indoctrinating your kids. He's even used anti-Semitic slurs as well. It's getting to a point where he is just being absolutely stupid, for lack of a better word, about the whole situation.
Yeah, I mean, it's this is one of those moments where most adults would sit there and take a step back. And the reality of it is that I spent a week last week with one of Axar's big supporters, John Kessler. I actually came back a better person for knowing him because John's a good guy. And John tried to preempt this whole situation to begin with by telling them very specifically that even if I was directing my kids to go over there, to leave them alone, he warned them. He straight up warned me that was a bad idea. And I get the feeling that immediately after the incident occurred, that some of the more cooler heads over there, for example, like Steve Jepson, were taken back, and I'm guessing that Alec sent him out because he chased me down in the hall outside the vendor's room to say to me that some silliness about a powered scooter there, and they were just worried about my kid's safety, which was ridiculous. And I had a very stern message for him to give back to Alec Peters, which was, you tell Alec he's never to talk to my children again, but I used a whole lot more profanity in the process.
Yeah.
I think the adults surrounding Alec, I think they realize exactly how unhinged he's become over this whole thing. And the truly bizarre posting that he actually made in The Real Truth About Axar the other day, where he, I guess challenged is the best word, myself, Justin Burton, anyone else from Axar Monitor to go 10 rounds in a ring with, which is just weird. So I'm going to suggest right now that Alec, I would like to challenge you to a bait. Nobody, he can't see that. Don't worry about the bug on the screen. I'm going to challenge. I'm calling it right now. I'm going to challenge Alec to a bake-off. That's what I'd like to challenge him to. So, I mean, it's just so, it's going to be biscuits, and it's going to be chicken. So, for all of his bluster, it's just really, I find this bizarre. His reaction to this is kind of like his bizarre, since we're talking about biscuits, to the whole biscuit controversy with him and how he just lost his mind. But instead of just saying, you know what, I made a mistake, I shouldn't have done that, and just moving on. But he seems absolutely incapable of doing that, of ever acknowledging that he made a mistake, that this was not the way to handle a 10 and 12-year-old.
Now, one of the big things that he does continue to say, and his supporters have taken on board as well, is that people like us didn't donate money, therefore we don't have a dog in this fight. An infamous quote there from earlier on as well, no dog in the fight. What do you make of that? So someone like Carlos and myself that didn't donate to Axar, do we have a right to be doing, to be calling into question this supposed fan film?
Well, +1 in that department, because I'm in the same kind of boat as you guys are, same category. The reality of it is that Alec from the very beginning said that he did not care if you did not donate. He wanted you to spread the word about Axar, which many of us did. It's a project that many of us were excited about. The truth of the matter is, the only reason I didn't donate to Axar is because I had other things going on in my life at the time, and I didn't even know about the campaigns until they were over, is what it came down to. And I would have. But regardless, here at the end of the day, I'm a Star Trek fan. I have been watching my fellow Star Trek fans be exploited for the better part of 7 years now, pretty much since Prelude was released. So yeah, I do have a dog in this fight. This was my 18th convention, my first as a vendor. And every single year I go now, I don't go to see the panels. I always tell people this. I stopped being worried about the panels about 10 years ago. I've heard every anecdote that Kate Mulgrew, that Jonathan Frakes, that William Shatner has ever told. I've heard them all. I'm here to see my friends now. And I look at that entire community as my friends. And I look at Alec Peters as someone who, in my opinion, has hurt my friends to the tune of $1.7 million at least.
Ooh.
And broken promises over the years. And the bigger issue I have is that, well, why can't you just move on from this? Why can't you? Because Alec Peters keeps suing friends of mine. He keeps suing people. He keeps using the legal system to hurt people. That's why I can't move on from this, because I am really just tired of seeing this continue. And I think Alec Peters deserves scrutiny, is what it comes down to.
Yeah, but he doesn't care that he's ruining people's lives.
And that probably is a very good point that Hayden makes astutely. One other thing that I wanted to touch on, Hayden, a question for you. Is your dad telling you what to say and what to do when it comes to seeing Alec in person?
No, he's not like teaching me hate or anything like that. He's not being like, okay, go to the Axar booth and say that Alex sucks. He's not doing that.
And that's, I guess, something to clear up as well, in that when it takes this long to do nothing, it really becomes a multi-generational thing. And we are here with your kids, Shawn, growing up in this world where, I mean, there are certainly a hell of a lot of other bigger and far more important issues in the world. We only need to look to the front page of the newspaper for most recently when we're recording this, with COVID, with Afghanistan, so many things in the real world going on that freely acknowledge that this is such a minor and trivial thing. But in terms of people every day that are donating to new crowdfunders that he comes up with, new ideas, new patches, never actually delivering the product, I think, you know, like you said, there are dogs in the fight. There is a reason that that Carlos, yourself, and myself are out there every day challenging what is said, because it can't just go unchallenged. You know, and I'm sort of turning this around a little bit into the last Trekzone conversation with Rhys Watkins, the one of the main supporters of Axar at the moment, letting him speak his piece on Trekzone. And that video, I'll just pop that up in a card for the YouTube audience. It is, of course, on trekzone.org for those listening to a podcast right now. But hearing from them, Shawn, what did you make of what Rhys said on the last show?
Well, I mean, not really a whole lot. It's nothing less than I would have expected. I've been watching, you know, Rhys for how many years now? You know, it really wasn't anything too earth-shattering. You know, I saw a guy that is much of a sycophant now as he was, you know, 5 years ago. And that's the thing to remember about this, is that, you know, I didn't come onto this day one as a detractor. It really took Alec's behavior to make me a detractor, is what happened. And and this has happened to a lot of people, where he's driven them to this. I mean, you know, after the lawsuit hit, I was a huge supporter of Axar before the lawsuit broke. And what I observed after the lawsuit broke was Alec's temper tantrums and just horrible behavior on social media. And I tried to give him the benefit of the doubt for a long time. And then ultimately what happened is, it was March 17th, 2016. It was 5:03 p.m. I remember that because it's permanently time-stamped. And it was Harrison's birthday. We were singing happy birthday to him. It was his 7th birthday. And as I'm recording it, I was singing happy birthday to Harrison. What happened was, I get a message from Alec Peters threatening to sue me. And that,
delightful.
Indeed. And that's when the gloves were off. So, you know, Rhys is a classic case of cognitive dissonance. I mean, it's straight up cult-like behavior at this point. He has seen how much harm Alec Peters has caused to him, is what it comes down to. Yet he thinks it's okay. He's engaged in a lot of this behavior. I've seen the Troll Hunters logs that he is heavily involved in. And of course, you know, more about that will come out when the Into the Wormhole documentary that Paul Jenkins and Meta Studios are making actually gets released. So, you know, it's nothing particularly surprising. I try to avoid with this getting my blood pressure up over it because that's all I would be doing. It's like what's the point of pulling my hair out about this anymore? And a lot of times, I want to point something out too. Is you brought up the generational aspect of this. A lot of people ask the question at the moment, well, how does this 10-year-old know anything about Axar? Well, it's really simple is what it comes down to. After our discussion here with him, you've seen what a bright kid he is, okay? He's heard me talk about Axar in the past. I've been on other podcasts where I've talked about it. And I made the mistake one day of actually asking the question about what is Axar? What is going on about this? And I was inundated for 3 days straight with questions to the point where I was like, dude, you gotta stop. I cannot. Go read Axar Monitor. That's really what it came down to. So Hayden's well-versed in this because he was curious. And he's a Star Trek fan. And he's been a Star Trek fan since he was a little kid.
Yeah, that's basically what comes down to all my knowledge, curiosity.
Right. And I've been getting the weirdest questions for him for his entire life. And him asking about Axar at age 10 was the weirdest, without question.
No, I think one of the weirdest is that one time when I was like 5, I asked why are cows called cows.
That's a weird question. See what I mean? He's curious.
It is absolutely fantastic. Well, Shawn, we have burnt through 30 minutes of internet video calling time. I really appreciate your time. Hayden, your time as well. Talking about this, you can go so deep and talk for so long about all of this, but compressing it down to those 30 minutes here on Trekzone is incredible. Plenty more Axar coverage to come. And as you say, those Troll Hunter logs, just incredible the things that were being discussed in that group.
Absolutely. Yep.
Oh, and before this video ends, I'm going to be the Duckman once more. Yay!
Duckman is now on Twitter, folks. Follow him at Duckman for Prez. That's Prez with a Z.
Fantastic, Shawn. Hayden, I really appreciate your time. Have a good one. We'll talk to you soon.
Thanks so much, my friend. It's been a pleasure as usual.
Yay!